Welcome to HBCU Grad Live. I'm Todd Finley, the CEO and founder of HBCU Grad. Today, we have the leadership of the Student National Dental Association. We're going to start with intros. Can you guys introduce yourselves? Tell us who you are, your position within SNDA, what HBCU you went to, and why you decided to pursue dentistry. We'll start with you, Rana.
Hi, everyone. My name is Raina Ransom. I'm the president-elect of the Student National Dental Association. I graduated from Hampton University in 2018. And basically the reason I chose dentistry is just because it was like such a dynamic career. It was a way for you to be a healthcare provider, an educator, a businesswoman, a leader in your community. It was just provided you so many opportunities to wear so many different hats. And I'm kind of a person who likes to do a bunch of different things. And as a general dentist, there's like so many different procedures you can do. So just like the idea of being able to take on so many different roles and do so many different things attracted me to the field of dentistry originally.
Right. Makes sense. Doc?
Hello, everyone. I am Dr. Kedra Bell, still getting used to that. I served as president for the 2019-2020 school year, and I currently serve as the immediate past president of SNDA. I graduated from Elizabeth City State University, which is in Elizabeth City, North Carolina, and there I majored in chemistry. I chose dentistry because it allowed me, like Raina said, to kind of get a touch of everything, some business, aesthetics. So I get to bring smiles back, which is what really makes me happy. And I get to use my hands. I've always been really creative, and so that just literally encompasses everything into one. And I get to help people every single day. So yeah.
Nice. Carla?
Hi, everyone. I'm Carla Jones. I'm the 2020-2021 president of SNDA. I'm a graduate of North Carolina A&T State University, Aggie Pride. I graduated with my Bachelor of Science in Biology in 2017, and I'm currently a D4 at the University of Michigan School of Dentistry. I became interested in dentistry at a young age because of my experience at the pediatric dentist. I thought going to dentist was so fun, and as I got older, I shadowed dentists. I actually did research and a lot of other things that ultimately allowed me to feel like dentistry was the career for me. I like that I can work with my hands, work with people. I like the business aspect of it. And to make an impact on people's lives with something like a smile is so important.
Yeah. Rachel?
Hi, everyone. My name is Rachel Porter. I am a 2018 graduate of the Howard University, the real HU. And my purpose for pursuing dentistry was that as a child, I was very inquisitive in the dental office. I wanted to know what the drills were, what they were doing. I used to look up procedures before I actually had them done. And I had braces at a very young age, and it was a Black orthodontist. She went to Howard as well, two-time Howard alum. And she kind of inspired me to see that I could be a dentist. It wasn't often that you saw someone that looked like you in the profession. So that's what inspired me, and I really just stuck with it.
Nice. Now, I wonder why all of you went to an HBCU. I went to FAMU, and everyone went to a different HBCU. Can you go around and tell me what made you choose an HBCU and how was your experience? We'll go back with you, Rachel. We'll start with you this time.
Okay. Well, I am a fourth generation HBCU graduate. My great-grandmother is a graduate of Southern University, as well as my grandmother and my mother and my father, my aunts and uncles. So I grew up going to the Bayou Classic every year, hearing Southern's band in my grandmother's yard. It was just a great experience growing up. So for me, it was really HBCU or nothing. I really didn't look anywhere else.
Right. Makes sense. Carla?
So I actually have quite the opposite experience. Being that I'm from Michigan, both my parents, they went to Western Michigan, and growing up and going to a suburban high school, I didn't hear positive things about HBCUs. I just heard, from classmates. Some of them say, you're not going to get as good of education, blah, 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 all these things. And here I am, going to be a dentist next year. So what inspired me to go to an HBCU, specifically North Carolina A&T, was an HBCU college tour. So I can't stress enough the importance of HBCU college tours, especially for someone who hasn't had much exposure to HBCUs. So when I went to A&T, just the feeling I got in my soul, I don't know, it just overwhelmed me. I was like, wow, I feel like I can really connect with my Blackness here. Going to a white high school, some of you might have similar experiences. It's kind of rough. So I really enjoyed going to my HBCU. I learned so much about myself. I learned about the diversity in Blackness itself. Just because I'm Black doesn't mean I'm like the next person. So learning to love myself, being empowered, being around others that look like me was very inspiring, and I don't trade it for the world.
Nice. Makes a lot of sense. Doc?
So I grew up in Elizabeth City, North Carolina, and I ended up going to Elizabeth City State University, but I always say like an HBCU chose me. So when I was in high school, Winston-Salem State University actually came to my high school and was kind of just looking at students and just kind of talking to us. And so they took some of our information, and then somewhere I got a Fluoride scholarship in the mail. And so my mom was like, yeah, girl, this is where you're going. So I went there and I went to go see the campus, and I literally loved it, fell in love. I did end up transferring back home when my grandparents got sick. But either way, like both of them were great experiences, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. So even though my parents, my mom and all of her brothers all went to Elizabeth City State University, I just felt like in our household, it wasn't like, oh, HBCU or nothing. It was more so like, you need to go to college. And so growing up, I was like, oh, I'm going to go to Carolina. I'm going to go to Carolina. That's what I wanted to do. So I applied to Carolina and a couple of other schools in North Carolina. A little ashamed to say that I only applied to PWIs. But like I said, the HBCU chose me, and I would not trade that experience for the world.
You're right. Makes sense. Raina?
So my parents both went to North Carolina A&T State University. So from a little girl, like I was always at homecoming. I was surrounded by their friends who were also graduates of North Carolina A&T. And I just like saw how successful they were and their friends were. And so in my head, like I always associated success with HBCUs. And going to homecoming for me, like similar to Carla, I grew up in a super suburban area, was often the only Black girl in my class or one of the only Black people in my class or within the school, honestly. So having those moments where I can go to homecoming and see my parents' friends and see the students and see everyone just like being so great and so happy and everybody looked like you, like it was just the best experience ever. So it was always in the back of my mind from there. And my parents, like, they never really put it super in my face, like go to HBCU, go to HBCU. But I think they did it subliminally by like taking us to homecoming and taking us to the basketball games. And it just was kind of like a natural thing I gravitated to. And I think my senior year in high school, like some different things happened to senior and junior year in high school. I was definitely like, oh, I'm going to an HBCU. And so I think when I was younger, I always wanted to go to Howard. And I'm from Northern Virginia, and Howard was 45 minutes up the road, and I had never even been there, right? But I was talking all this stuff about Howard. And then I got there, and I was like, okay. But I think I had, like, built it up so much in my head that when I got there, I was like my expectations were so high, and when I got there, I was just like, okay. But then Hampton, I had no expectation, had never heard of it. All I had was an aunt that was like, pretty girls go to Hampton. Pretty girls go to Hampton. I was like, all right, whatever, like, okay. And then I went there for the first time, and I was like, dang, this place is incredible. Like, it's on the water. Yeah. Everyone's gorgeous. Like, they look like me. They talk like I do. Like, they're wearing suits. Yeah. I went for like a special visitation day, and the admissions team at Hampton is so awesome. And they make all the tour guides wear suits, and it's just crazy when you go there. So I think that's the main reason why I ended up there. But I just wanted to kind of have that experience where I could also be around people who look like me. And I think what Carla said was the biggest lesson I learned while at Hampton was the diversity within my own race. And I think like that is such a lesson that everyone needs to learn, because like from Hampton, this is a private school, there's people from everywhere. So Black people from the Northeast don't act the same as Black people from the South. They don't act the same as Black people from the West Coast. They don't act the same as Black people in the Caribbean. Like, we're so diverse as a people. And like learning that is the best lesson that I think you can ever learn.
Right. I totally agree. That's something that I learned going to FAMU, that it's so many different people. And I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. I'm from a suburban area, and I didn't know it was that many diverse Black people. So I can concur. Tell me about SNDA. Tell me what it's for. Tell me a little bit about the history and where you all are now. Raina.
So SNDA is basically an organized dentistry organization. So it was created in order to support the Black dental students and a lot of the minority dental students in schools across the country. So like our main mission is just to support for the enrollment and matriculation of dental students throughout the country. And we have a variety of events that focus on mentorship, community service, just really making our members the best clinicians they can be when they graduate.
Right. Makes sense. Now, I saw a stat that there's only 3% of dentists are Black. Doc, why do you think that is?
I think that answer is multifaceted. So one thing is that despite our efforts as an SNDA, enough Black students aren't being admitted into dental schools every year. We have these programs called Impressions Day, and we prepare our students. But I mean, Black students, dentistry is still a white field. It's still a white male field, and so every single day, even us all going to PWIs for dental school. Every day we're like infiltrating. We're trying to find our space, and we're trying to prove who we are and that we're meant to be there. So I think a big sector of it is one that, we have to get admitted. We have to get in. We have to have those test scores that a lot of our students don't have the resources to be able to do that. Secondly is exposure. I never saw a Black dentist until I turned 24. And that was the person who, pushed me and encouraged me to go into dentistry, but I never saw a Black dentist until then. So it's really hard to imagine yourself in a space that you've never seen someone look like you in. Fortunately, Dr. Porter, future Dr. Porter, was able to see an orthodontist at a very young age that was able to influence her. But it's really hard to imagine yourself without seeing anyone there that looks like you. And then, like I said, outside of exposure is access to resources. A lot of kids that don't look like us have money on top of money to go to classes or take the summers off. We don't have that. A lot of us either have to work through the summer, or, we don't have time to actually go to these programs that can help us, or, because we have to help at home. And so there's just a lot of things stacked against us as a minority group of people that we have to overcome to get there. Other thing is that once we get there, we have to stay there. And a lot of times Black students aren't giving that same grace that other students are. They're given harder times in lab, or they're not supported in lab, or they're given harder times in just didactic classes, which is just like our main courses. And they don't get that support that other students get, or they get like, oh, they weren't prepared to be here. And so once you get in, then you have to stay in to get out and actually change that status quo there. So there's just so many things that, we've been, working to overcome, but there's so many other places that we have to get to, basically. That's why I think that number is still there.
Right. That makes a lot of sense.
I just want to piggyback
on
what Akija was saying. A lot of it comes from our environment. When you look at the statistics of Black students in high school, we are in lower income communities, and we are going to high schools in the inner city. So our resources, our SAT scores coming out are lower than our white classmates and our white counterparts. Then we get to school and we may or may not be able to afford test prep for the DAT, which is the test that's required to get into dental school. So even statistically, we are testing lower than our white counterparts. So we may or may not be able to get into school based off that alone. So I think we have to work to break those barriers. And that's why with SNDA, we're starting a program called HBCU Connect, where we want to go to these HBCUs and really get the Black students. We want them to feel seen. We want them to feel supported. A lot of them don't have support. I get DMs from students all the time that are asking, I want to be a dentist, but I have no idea what to do. So that's what SNDA is really for, so that you have a space where you feel seen and where you feel comfortable asking those questions, and you get a realistic perspective on what you need to do to be successful in this field.
For sure.
Right. I'm going to stay here.
One more piggyback after that is, I think that's another reason why HBCUs are so important, because a lot of times Black students will go to majority schools for undergrad, and they might not necessarily feel the support in chemistry, or they might not feel the support in biology or physics or whatever, difficult major it takes, or in the prerequisite classes that you need to go to dental school. So if you don't have support on the undergrad level in those tough majors, and you don't get the grades there, and you don't learn the material well, or you end up switching to another major, just to make it out on time or whatever on time is, because there really is no real time schedule when it comes to education. You know, you end up kind of missing that opportunity versus at HBCU. You know, I felt like I had faculty members I could go to. There was a million summer programs that Hampton University alums worked in or stuff like that came to Hampton and kind of exposed us to kind of these enrichment programs or things you can do in, you know, while you're in undergrad to help you better prepare for dental school. So I definitely think if I didn't go to Hampton and I didn't participate in the summer enrichment, I would have never went to dental school right after undergrad. And two, I don't think I would have been as successful in dental school if I hadn't done those programs.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. Student Dr. Jones, what skills, characteristics, skill sets, attributes do you look for in a pre-dental student that gives you an indication that someone will be successful in dental school?
That is a great question. So I think a couple of different things that will make someone successful in dental school is starting with organization. So in dental school, when you first start, you probably have nearly 30 credits, about 10 or 11 classes at one time. It is very overwhelming. So someone who's in college right now needs to work towards putting time into their academics, ensuring that they meet all their deadlines and assignments. When you get to dental school, you do not get baby when it comes to test dates. They will be in the calendar and you need to know that that test is upcoming. So I would say having the time management and organizational abilities are two key things. On top of that, in dentistry, we're going to be working in patients' mouths. So you're going to need some level of hand skills to start with. Of course, in the beginning, it can be a little bit of a struggle, but you'll build those skills over time. So as a pre-dent, if there's any hobbies you like knitting, painting, or maybe even something as simple as cutting. I realized when I was doing prosthodontics, which is the profession of dentistry that kind of works more so with dentures, partial dentures, and crowns, I realized that I wasn't holding the acrylic burr as well. And I noticed that if I had actually cut with just a knife instead of the nice, easy slicer, then I would have been able to have that skill. So little small things that you can work on along the way will help be successful in dental school. Another thing is having that drive. Times are going to get hard inevitably. So having that drive and motivation, even passion for dentistry is important. So there's a lot of different factors that it takes to be a successful dental student that will lead to becoming a successful dentist.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. Thank you for that. Dr. Bell, can you tell me what dental school is like for someone that didn't come close to dental school? Walk me through year one. Just walk me through it.
I was trying to forget dental school, but since you want to take me back to that place, then I will go there. No, so dental school, if I could explain it, it is a marathon. It's like it's like a marathon through a tunnel, and even when you get to the end of the tunnel still to be, you know, like it's still there, like a never-ending tunnel. But no, so it's usually depending on what school you're at. The first year is all like basic sciences, and so you're kind of reviewing what you did in undergrad, whether you remember it or not. That's one thing, but you're kind of going over those things. Second year, depending on what school you at, you might start clinic, and then you'll start learning more about the specialties of dentistry, like student Dr. Jones was just talking about, like prosthodontics, which is like dentures, peds, which is working with kids. We also have orthodontics, which is like braces, and so second year you kind of get more exposed into that. Third year is where the fun starts, and you get to start seeing patients. And you get to, start working on your clinical skills, working how to talk to patients, figuring out what works for you in the mouth, what doesn't work for you, where you should sit. And then fourth year at most schools is like gun ho. We're kind of in the clinic all the time. And you're literally just, grinding it out and learning as much as you can and knocking off those requirements so you can get out. That's what you got to do. You got to get out. And so in that time also, you also have a couple of national board exams, depending on what year you came in. For me, as well as student Dr. Jones and student Dr. Ransom, I believe, we did the 2-part board. And so we take one part at the end of our first year, start of second year, the other part at the end of our third year. And you have to pass those. And then for student Dr. Porter here at the bottom, she's going to be taking the 1-part board, so she'll be taking that next year coming up. So you do have those national board exams as well. And then at the very, very end, which is that tunnel that I'm talking about, you get to the end and you're like, whoa, I'm here. And then you got to pass licensure. You're like, gosh, I thought I was done. And then licensure is like that last step. At that point, it's like, depending on where you are, you either take it in 2 parts, like part your 3rd year, part your 4th year. At some schools, like if you're at like Kentucky or something, they kind of take it all on the same weekend. But it's like a 5-part test that you take. 2 parts are on a patient, and then the other 3 parts you do on a mannequin. Hopefully they'll change that soon. We're still praying about that. And then you also have a written portion. So like Dr. Jones said, it's a long process. So that drive and that passion needs to be there, because those nights get really long. But yeah, that's pretty much school in a nutshell. And I mean, you're pretty much going from sun up to sundown, like every day.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. Student Dr. Ransom, with me being a businessman, and when I think about dentistry, I think about people having private practices. What would make someone not have a private practice being a dentist? Because I only think from a business perspective. What are the hindrances to having a private practice, and then what advantages are there to kind of work within a consortium, things like that?
That's a really, really good question. So like I mentioned earlier, there are so many different aspects of dentistry. So private practice is like what most people think. That's the trajectory, most people think you'll take in private practice to go straight there. But there are so many different ways, you can practice dentistry. So you can practice dentistry in a hospital. You can practice dentistry in a school. You could be an academic dentist, someone who teaches classes, works on administration within a school, but also works in the faculty practice. Like you said, of course, you could do private practice. You can be in a group practice, which is a lot of different doctors together, or you can be in a corporate practice. So now there's a lot of different companies coming out. I've probably heard of like Heartland or Aspen. You see them everywhere. These are corporate companies that have dental offices, and so they hire associates. And so basically, what's appealing to those kind of sectors is that you get to go in and you don't have to do any of the business. You could just practice dentistry. So we don't really learn a lot about business in dental school, because obviously dentistry is an entire profession, and you could probably spend 8 years learning literally everything, but there's not enough time. We're trying to put everything in 4 years. So at UNC, we have a practice management course that they're incorporating now, which kind of touches on a little bit of the private practice aspect. But for some, it's a lot to learn about, billing and setting up different, like, what's it called? Like procedures and strategies for your office to like go through, and all that other stuff that you don't learn in school is really hard to deal with when you're a new doc coming out and you're still just trying to work on getting your speed up and mastering all the clinicians. And 2, some people just don't want to deal with it because it is a lot of extra work and it is a lot of extra headache. So those are some reasons people don't go into private practice. And then also private practice is really expensive to get started. So going out of dental school now, dental schools can cost anywhere from $50,000 to $100,000 plus a year. So most of the time, people are taking out loans to finance their education. So that means you have young docs graduating with anywhere from $200,000 to $400,000 plus of student loans. And then some people go on to residency. And if you don't do a general dentistry, residencies are typically paid. But if you do a specialty residency, that can be another 2 to 3 years where you're taking out anywhere from another $50,000 to $80,000 a year, depending on where you go to finance that specialty education. So now you're talking about $600,000 to $700,000, in student loans. So a lot of people, when they come out and then they think, okay, I have all this debt and now I'm going to take out more debt to open a practice, like that's not appealing anymore to some people. So it's definitely a lot of factors that kind of determine your decision whether to go to private practice or go to a corporate practice or work in academia. So it's just a lot of different things that you have to consider before you go to even take on more debt or, whatever it may be. And it's kind of all what your situation allows you to do too.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. That was a really thorough explanation. I appreciate that. I have another question for, I'm going to throw this at student Dr. Porter. Tell me more about HBCU Connect and how HBCU students benefit from this, and what SNDA does for them, and help them along.
So HBCU Connect was created last year by the National Executive Board, and this year we are working to put it into place, and it pretty much will provide an opportunity for students who, I know like Howard has a dental school, but that's pretty much the only one besides Meharry that's considered an HBCU. So we want to go out to these schools that do not have a dental school attached and possibly do not even have an SNDA chapter. And we want to go out and really make sure that they feel seen, that they feel supported. We want to be able to set up mentorship for them. We want to make them aware of programs that can strengthen their application. We want to help them with their application. A lot of the times that Black students don't have opportunity because we don't know about it. And there are some programs that have been created for us. I know me and Raina, we met at a program that was created for minorities at UNC Chapel Hill. And that program really, I feel like the reason is that the reason we both are in dental school and we're able to go straight from undergrad to dental school, things like that, these students need to be aware of. They need to know that somebody will read their personal statement. Someone will pass down their DAT material. Somebody will prep them for their interview. Someone will make sure that they are taking the right classes so they can apply to dental school. So things like that, we want to be able to go to these schools and just be a resource to HBCU students who cannot have that just by what they are being offered at their institutions.
Right. Makes sense.
Just to piggyback off of that, if that's okay.
Sure.
So HBCU Connect, like Dr. Porter was saying, was created this past year by the National Executive Board under my strategic plan. Basically, it was created because we have a convention every summer, which hopefully we'll hit on eventually. But when we get to these conventions, we'll see students from everywhere, and then you would see the undergraduate students, and not many of them would be from HBCUs. And then you'll walk around and talk to people. That's one thing that SNDA has allowed us to do. I meet people from everywhere. And so I talked to these students, and I just started to see a trend that a lot of the students that came from HBCUs were a little bit older. They were a little bit older, or they had to apply multiple times, or they didn't get in on their first time, or, some people that I just know from other things, like they're older now, they might be looking at me on Instagram or social media, and they're like, oh, I wanted to be a dentist. I didn't know where to go. And a lot of these students came from HBCUs. I would have mentees that are at HBCUs now, and they would, literally lost in kind of like where to go. And I realized where student Dr. Ransom was at Hampton, where they had a lot of people that, alumni that came back. All HBCUs don't have that. A lot of them went through budget cuts over the last few years. And so what those budget cuts have done is that a lot of times they cut out those positions that we need. And so those positions that are being cut out are like the health professions advisor, where who's advising me if they're not a health professions person, if they don't know anything about that. And so the program was literally started because we saw the need for someone to literally go out and reach to those students to make sure that they don't get lost in the shuffle. That, like student Dr. they are seen, and that they're given that support to get them where they need to be and where they want to be.
Right. Nice. Has there ever been a time where the SNDA was led by 4 HBCU grads?
I don't think so. A lot of actually, and I can only speak for like the last 5 years, but for the last 5 years, we haven't had, no. But no, this is the first time.
Okay. How did you guys pull that off, student Dr. Jones?
Well, at our convention this summer, first ever virtual convention, might I mention, we had our executive board elections, and what can I say? HBCU excellence rose to the top, and that's what happened. It was decided by our delegates from each chapter, the winners for the elections for SNDA, and this is just how it panned out. So we're fortunate to have so much HBCU excellence on our executive board this year. It's going to be exciting, and I'm looking forward to continuing Akidra's HBCU Connect.
Right. That makes sense. Raina, based off of your experience, what's the most profitable part of dentistry? Like, if you want to just make some money, what part of dentistry do you get into?
Crowns all day long. Cosmetic dentistry, full mouth rehab, Gucci Man, not Gucci Man's exact smile, but the right way. So the way to make an extreme amount of money in dentistry is to do high dollar procedures. That's implants, crowns, veneers. Basically, what Carla was talking about earlier, prosthodontics. Prosthodontics is a specialty that has like super high dollar procedures. But it also takes a lot of skill and a lot of knowledge to carry out those procedures correctly. So a lot of times you'll see a lot of celebrities or other people, go to other countries and things like that to get their work done because it's less expensive or whatever. Just a whole bunch of people will go to other countries to get their work done because it's less expensive. But people really need to understand that the price in dentistry, you're paying for the education, you're paying for the thoroughness, you're paying for all those little things that the average person might not understand, but trust me, your dentist understands. And that's why the cost is so high, because there are so many little things that need to be done to carry out those procedures correctly. And so that you can chew efficiently and just speak efficiently and not slur your words or have a lisp or anything like that. Things like that, it takes a lot of attention to detail. Another specialty where people make a lot of money is oral surgery. So that's a lot of third molar, wisdom teeth, removal of cysts, just big surgical procedures. So I think a lot of times people associate oral surgery with money, but I think people do forget that in general dentistry, your income is honestly unlimited, because as long as you're learning to do those high dollar procedures and do them really well, and you're kind of putting yourself in a market that people will be able to afford those procedures, that you are definitely setting yourself for a high level of income. But there is one thing with that I often see with minority dentists. We are more likely to go back to our communities where we came from. So typically, if we came from an area that was more or less fortunate, the people around us necessarily can't afford those high dollar procedures. So if you want to practice an area that's fee for service, basically you won't take any insurance. You want to make sure you set up your practice or you work in an area where like the average income of the people in that area is up a higher level, so that they'll be able to afford your fee schedule, versus having to settle for what an insurance company may pay you, because an insurance company may not pay what your fee level is. So then you are going to take the hit on the difference there.
Right. That makes sense. Dr. Bell, can you give us average people the rundown on how to keep our teeth clean, how to keep a beautiful smile, what we should be doing on a daily basis? I know, the brushing and flossing, but give me a little insight on what we need to do.
Well, you said the biggest thing, literally brushing and flossing. And to you, teeth look gorgeous. It's something that you do, but you couldn't imagine how many people don't understand that they need to brush and floss. But brushing twice a day, staying away from those like charcoal toothpaste. We can just leave those where they are. Just let's stick with some Colgate and some nice normal toothpaste. Because those toothpaste that we find that are like the newest thing on the market, that's what a lot of people go to. Those aren't really approved. They're not approved by the ADA. They're not dentist approved. So I don't know what they're gonna do. They may turn your teeth yellow. They may turn your teeth gray. So literally brushing twice a day. If you have time to rinse a day, if you feel something's in your teeth, you can do that as well. And then flossing at least once a day. Now, I know flossing is hard, but for me, I'm not picky. You can use a water pick. You can use regular floss. You can use placker. I just want you to get the food out the middle of your teeth. Literally, very simple. But brushing and flossing. And the other important thing is going to the dentist twice a year. That's going to make sure that you're getting those cavities, catching them early. If you have anything going on in your bones that we can see that, we need to make sure your images are updating and that you're coming to see us. Of course, you can brush and floss as much as you want, but also come to see us. So I need you to brush twice a day for 2 minutes. If you need a timer, put that timer on. Floss once a day, preferably before bed. Use a mouth rinse if you would like to use one of those as well. Some people don't use them. If you're using a mouth rinse, which we do advise to use, it helps just to clean out the, just the crevices that you missed because you probably didn't floss that night. The mouthwash helps to get in there. And also, if there's some antimicrobial ones, so they just help to keep your oral area clean. And then just like I said, make sure you're coming to see us, because you can't see stuff that's in there. Oh, and I know this is not what you asked, but disclaimer: stay away from Smile Direct. If they're not going to a general dentist or orthodontist to get that put on, don't do it. It's bad. Because like Dr. Student said, it's gonna be 2 years later, your front teeth gonna look real nice, and you're gonna come to me, you're gonna be like I can't like, it's not direct. So stay away from those and brush your floss.
Yeah. Oh, one more thing on what Keisha was saying. The charcoal toothpaste, like that's such a fad right now. But literally, so things that people need to think about is like we need to go off evidence-based procedures, like not case studies, not clinical reports from someone who did it from 100 people and like 50 of them had good results. That is not evidence-based. We need randomized controlled trials to truly show that something is effective. So like a lot of times what happens with charcoal is it's gritty, right? So all it does is remove surface staining from your teeth because it has a grit to it. But truly to whiten your teeth, like there's 3 like layers to your teeth, right? You have the pulp, dentin, and enamel. The enamel is the most outside. The dentin is what's in the middle. That's what really colors your teeth is the dentin, the stuff in the middle. So anything that's just taking something off the surface is really not whitening them. It's just making them look a little brighter because they like knocked off some dirt. But if what you need to whiten your teeth is something that like penetrates through your teeth to make the inside white. So just don't stop using charcoal.
I'd like to add a couple of things to this discussion as well. Oh, am I good? Okay.
No, it was just a question that popped up that I saw that someone asked about manual versus electric toothbrushes. Honestly, you can do just as well with the manual as you can with an electric. It all just depends on how well you kind of get back in there. Of course, electric toothbrushes makes it a no-brainer. It makes it a lot easier because you can kind of get in here and just rotate it around and does all the work for you. You usually won't like overbrush or irritate your gums with those. But again, you can do the same thing. So if you have an electric toothbrush, any of those work fine. Pick the one that you like the best. We've tried Sonicare and Oral-B in school. They always come. And I mean, I like both of them. Just find the one that you like best. I usually go for the one that's the most cost efficient, like Dr. Ransom said. You know, we come out of school with a lot of loans, and that's how you had to pay for school. So I go for the one that's most cost efficient. And so if you use that Sonicare and, you know what I'm saying, get that done. But again, they do the same thing. As long as you're kind of getting back in there and doing those rolling motions. You go ahead, Carla.
Right. Student Dr. Jones, did you have something to add?
Okay, I was going to add some things that I've noticed with some of my patients. So some of my patients come in and say, oh, I'm not using fluoride in my toothpaste. It's bad for you. This, that, and the third about fluoride. So one thing we learned in dental school about fluoride is that it helps remineralize your teeth. So it's actually in our water sources. Our public water sources typically have fluoride in them to help strengthen and remineralize your teeth. And that's the big ingredient in toothpaste. That's why we recommend it to our patients. So if for you all that think fluoride is poisonous, it is at a very high concentration only. So if you want to look up the studies that were done on rats about the high concentrations of fluoride, or even in humans, if there's way too much fluoride, the teeth will turn brown. That's how it was actually discovered, because those teeth didn't have any cavities. And to add, for those of you who do floss, if you do have bleeding, I want you to know that you should try to go to your dentist, because you probably have some buildup on your teeth, tartar, calculus, whatever you want to call it, and you're getting that bleeding because you have gingivitis, inflammation of your gums. And you want to stop that before it's too late. And you have something called periodontitis. That is when you're having bone loss. That is irreparable. So please, if you get some bleeding while you're flossing, go ahead and keep flossing, and maybe that'll go away. If not, or even if it does go away, do try to see your dentist for your 6-month cleanings, maybe 3 months, depending on how everything's looking. Go ahead to your dentist and go ahead and make sure your oral health care is good at home as well.
Right. Makes sense. Dr. Porter.
Yes.
We have a comment here that says not smile direct. LOL. How do you think technology will affect dentistry going forward with different companies like Smile Direct coming into the game?
Smile Direct, I don't think will make it very far. It's one of those things where it hasn't been around long enough to truly know that its effect. And if you're not going to a dentist or an orthodontist, if you're not having radiographs looked at, a panoramic, it's not going to turn out well for you. From my understanding, I think you take the impression and you like send it in. You may not even like physically go in person. And I recently just got done with my ortho rotation, and the science behind ortho, as a dental student, I personally was like it's not fun. It's a lot of bone movement. It's very serious. And Smile Direct Club is honestly very dangerous. And it honestly can do things that probably cannot even be corrected. So I would say that's not going to go very far. But I do think like stuff like CAD cams, which is kind of like electronic dentistry, doing things like it's like a machine. Keitra probably can talk more about it, but it's like a machine that takes impressions of your mouth. And that's like part of like advanced dentistry moving forward. That's going to be like on a computer, not so much lab work. I see that going a lot further than Smile Direct Club personally.
Right.
And like 3D printing now is used in dentistry. So you can 3D print dentures, you can 3D print crowns, like you can 3D print pretty much everything now in your own office in dentistry. And so those machines are really, really expensive. So that's another reason why group practices and corporate offices are so big now, is because they have so many offices, they have an increased buying power. So now, they can get a deal on the machine versus me, Raina Ransom, single doc. I would have to pay $100,000 for that machine because I'm just buying one, versus Aspen might get 10 machines for $50,000 each or whatever, some type of deal, because they're buying so much in bulk. So yeah, there's a lot of advancements in dentistry, but they're so expensive for the individual single practice doctor that's why we're seeing a lot of transition into multi-practice facilities.
Right. We have a question for each of you amazing docs and future docs. What was your favorite SNDA National Conference memory? Dr. Bell?
I have so many. I've been to SNDA conventions every summer since I started dental school. So after my first year, after second year, after third year. Unfortunately, after fourth year, I wasn't able to go because of COVID. So I'm still a little sad on the inside. But my all-time favorite memory is going to be the gala ceremony, which is what my future docs will probably say too. But that's where we kind of introduce our new doctors. I missed my moment this year. But that's where we introduce our new doctors and welcome them into the world as dentists. And I feel like sometimes that's even like bigger than graduation, because these are the people, like, it's like coming to homecoming. Like, I mean, everybody knows about homecoming. SNDA conference is like homecoming. Like, you pull up and you're like, oh, I mean, because you're seeing people from, Kentucky and California and DC and all the places that you haven't seen since last year. So it's literally like homecoming, because during that week or 3 days of events, you literally get you see people and they're like you, and we have the same mindset, same drive. So you literally, like, it's an immediate click. You get numbers and things of that sort. And so, like, when you come home, it's like homecoming. And so gala would be like the biggest homecoming party, I would say, where everybody's in one space. And I posted it on my Snap last year, and somebody called it the BET Awards of Dentistry. It's like a constant go. We have a guest speaker, we have dinner, we usually have drinks that are sponsored. And we announce our new docs, we give away awards, we give the schools awards. I mean, like, everybody's just in there, the energy, the vibes, everything, like the music, every year, and I'm sad because we couldn't have one this year.
I want to piggyback off of that. I feel like convention as a whole is just nostalgic, because as a Black dental student, it's the first space that I was in where it was like hundreds of people and everyone looks like me and everyone in the room is going to be a doctor. Mm-hmm. And I had never experienced that. And I remember being a rising senior at Howard. Me and Raina were at a program and we had mentors. Our mentors were D2s. They were second years, and they left our program to go to conference. And we were like, where y'all going? Like, they were like, oh, we're going to national convention. I was like, what's that? And they were like, it's like SNDA's national convention. So in my mind, I was applying that summer. I'm like, I'm trying to see what that is. I'm trying to get there. So walking into gala last summer was just like, okay, I made it. Like, I worked to get here. Like, I belong here. People look like me. Like, this is the beginning of something great. It felt like I was at home and I belonged there. There was no, like, most people, like, for me, every interview I went to at dental school, I was the only Black girl.
Yep.
Only Black person. No Black man either. So being in that space, I feel like if you can go as an undergraduate, I would go just to see. Because if you need a push to keep going, to take your DAT, to actually apply, you need to be in the building, because that's the most motivating experience I have ever had. And then my chapter, not to toot my own horn, me and Akija's chapter, we won chapter of the year, and she served as president.
Okay.
She served as president of the chapter, and I serve as president now. So looking back, it's just like, I really said I would, and I did. So, yeah.
Okay.
And I will add, like, Rachel looked like $1 million at conference. Her dress was like super sparkly. She was like all walking in, and it was so much fun. I think my favorite memory was literally the second that I walked in the room, because like I had not even the gala room, just like the hotel room, because conference is, so SNDA is the student version. And then we have the National Dental Association, which is for, the practicing dentists. And so I walked in and I'm like, this is the bougiest thing I've ever seen. Like, all I saw was all these people in all these linen suits. And I was like, oh my God, like, this is great. Like, it was, and then I remember I walked in by myself, and I saw Kedra in the lobby, and she was just like, hey, and I was just like, oh my God. I was just like so overwhelmed and just so excited, because, I'm fortunate for sure to go to UNC Chapel Hill, where I'm not the only Black person in my class. There's 10 of us, I think. Yeah, there's 10 of us in our class, and like, pretty much every class has about that number. So we're fortunate to go to a diverse dental school, and there's so many students that they're the only one in their class. They're the only one in their school. So it's like having the opportunity to just be around everyone that looks like you. It's literally like homecoming on steroids. Like, I don't even know how to describe it, but say that, because you just look around and there's like an endless possibility of mentors. There's an endless possibility of new friends. There's business partners, like whatever you may want. Like, SNDA conference, like, you low-key have to be on your P's and Q's, because these are your colleagues. Like, these are the people you're going to be surrounded with, throughout your whole career. And especially like the Black dental community is so small. And, once you go to conference and you meet a couple people, you just have so many mutual friends, because there's so many summer programs that like we all kind of did. And it's just amazing, honestly.
All right. That's awesome. Student Dr. Jones.
Okay. I think they really encompass how our conference is, just from the whole aura, the whole vibe. And the gala is definitely a huge highlight. I can talk about one of our programs that's always a big hit every year. It's called Women to Women. And we also have a men's version called Men to Men. And it's just really special because we're hearing from dentists that have been in our shoes. And they have varied backgrounds. Maybe some of them had a child during dental school. Maybe some of them waited many years to go back. Some of them went straight through, did a residency, and now are business owners with kids and so many other responsibilities. So hearing from them, seeing that they did it, was very inspiring. It's like, if they could, then I can too. So it just gave me that, being at conference and hearing from them just gives me that push to keep going. I really hope that our 2021 conference will be live. Please, COVID, go away. We don't like you anymore. You've been here long enough. So yes, the conference is a vibe. You have to be there to experience it. And I'm just going to pray on it.
Yeah, pray on.
Go away.
Student Dr. Ransom, what haven't we talked about that you guys wanted to talk about?
Let me think. I guess we can kind of talk about how coronavirus has impacted our education, and the changes we've had to make to that. I think that's definitely a hot topic for anybody who's interested in dentistry right now. So, I mean, I'll start a little bit with that. I will say that our PPE, or personal protection equipment, has gone to another level. So first of all, dentistry was one of the most at-risk professions for catching coronavirus, because we are spraying air and water at people's mouths. So if you have the virus, that air and water syringe is going to aerate it, create a bunch of aerosols, and it's going to be all over our operatory, all over, everything. And it's just going to be very high risk for us to catch it. And honestly, looking back now, I really don't think we wore enough PPE to begin with, because we would usually wear surgical masks, goggles or lubes, which are like the glasses with the magnification and they have the little light, and a hairnet sometimes if we were doing like a cleaning or something that was a lot of aerosols. But other than, and like, we wear gowns and gloves, of course. But now thinking about, how much air and water and how many aerosols we really create during our daily procedures, we weren't wearing enough PPE in the beginning. So I think it was definitely a wake-up call for the dental profession, especially for hygienists, because they were like the number one at-risk person of catching coronavirus. So now for us, we just went back to school yesterday. We're back in the building. We've been online since March. And we have to wear KN95 mask, surgical mask on top, face shield, gown. We used to wear like these papery gown. Now they're like plastic. It's a lot and it's hard to breathe. So it's definitely something that takes some getting used to. I'm glad they're letting us practice in the lab before we go see real patients, because I might have passed out on a real patient trying to do something with all that gear on. So I think that's definitely the biggest impact's had on me. For the class ahead of me, they have the fear of not graduating on time at our school anyway. So that's something that's definitely impacting them. It's a lot, but we're just trying to stay positive, and we know that these are like unprecedented times. I feel like that unprecedented is like the word of the year. But so we have to be patient with our administration and patient with ourselves. And I think we just have to learn how to give everybody grace and kind of go with the flow so we can all just make it through.
Right.
And just to piggyback off of that, I'll give kind of the I'm graduating middle school and then the where do I go kind of scenario from that. And so student Dr. Ransom gave a great kind of arena where all our dental students are at right now, like trying to fight to get back into clinic. Like, am I going to see my patients? Am I going to graduate? Am I can I do anything? Are we going to ever see patients? And then for the class of 2020, my class, one kind of graduation out the window, all of our celebrations out the window. That was one thing. And kind of when COVID started, that's where we were like, oh my God, I can't have a graduation party. I can't have this. And then you get to we get into the whole mix, whoa, are they gonna let us graduate on time? And so then every day we're sitting here looking at our computer screens, am I gonna get this email that I'm cleared to graduate, or am I gonna have to wait to come back? And if I have to come back, do I have to sit on a patient or I have to go back? So literally I think from March until May, it was extremely taxing for all of us, just because literally every day you're either waiting on updates or they're pushing your update back, or you're just not hearing anything. Are we gonna ever go back to school? And then past that, some of us graduate, some of us have to come back to do other things at the end, or, and then you have jobs. Some people lost their jobs completely because some practices have had to close. And so some people didn't get to take boards. So now they don't have license. And so even if they did have a job, they can't go to work because they don't have a license. Especially here in Georgia. Fortunately, I took my boards in North Carolina and I'm doing a residency program now, so I'm not affected. But some of my classmates in North Carolina were struggling to get their license because the board was delayed. Here in Georgia, they haven't even taken a board, and you can't practice at all. And so we have these people with these $200,000 to $300,000 to $400,000 to $500,000 in debt, and they moved somewhere, or they have families, or they have kids, and they have no way to make an income because they don't have a dental license because the board isn't here. And so literally every day it's just I got to get up, I got to go. And for me, fortunately, I am in residency. But I mean, my experience, I don't know how it may look in the next month if the corona continues to get worse. And right now, I'm only, pulling teeth and doing exams, which is fine. I love to pull teeth and I'll pull them all day. But, you came here, you go somewhere to, kind of flourish in your experiences. And we don't know if I'll be able to place an implant because of, that sprays water, you need water. And so I think for all of us just in this headspace, some of us is whether you're going to graduate, some of us is whether you're going to be able to work. And so I think just for everybody in this time, which for everybody in the world, it's a difficult time, but student Dr. Ransom said, when we say unprecedented, I have seen that word 1,000 times, but I don't want to see it again. Going home, wherever she came from, going back. So.
Right. Student Dr. Porter, do you have anything to add?
For me, we got back in about a month or so ago, and it's the same thing as student Dr. Ransom said. Essentially, I'm practicing dentistry in a helmet.
Mhm.
And it feels like it's very heavy. I get migraines from it. And underneath the face shield, we have to wear loops and then a mask. So it's like it's easy for the loops to fog and you can't really see. And I actually saw my first patient over this pandemic. So it has been a severe adjustment from working in the lab on a fake head versus a real patient. So yeah, that's the biggest thing is just the extra protective wear. We've pretty much been like online for lectures, but anything lab related or clinic, we are going into campus now and just wearing a lot of gear.
Okay. Student Dr. Jones, I have a question for you. How has social media affected dentistry?
I think in today's age, social media is very critical depending on what type of dentistry you're doing. I would say, especially if you're doing cosmetic dentistry, that you would want to show off to the world, or just in general, maybe to show off your clinical abilities to get new patients. Social media can really bolster up your number of patients. So I feel like it is key. However, some practices don't utilize it and they're very successful. But I would say today, if you want to be successful, you should probably learn how to do social media marketing. I know a very successful dentist who uses Facebook ads, and that's the only ads he focuses on. And he makes, I think, about $400,000 a year. And he's really, he graduated maybe about 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago from Michigan. And he started his practice from scratch, started with, he didn't buy a practice that was super expensive. He started his from scratch. He would get tattoo chairs and use them as dental chairs. He would do different things as cost-saving measures to be able to build his practice. He created a business plan while he was in dental school. He attended classes at the business school. So, yeah, you can be successful just by starting those type of things.
Yeah, Facebook ads are unbelievable. Go right ahead.
I want to add that I think social media has helped as far as the mentorship aspect goes. A lot of students, as social media has come to the forefront, students can see like what dental students are doing. They can see us in clinic, they can see us studying, they can see us just out, like what it takes to be a dentist. Like I know I have a lot of people that follow me that are like, oh, what you do in lab today? Like, can you post this on your story more? We want to see this. I think it's helping students feel like they have an outlet to kind of see what they're getting into. It's easier for them to reach out and say, can you tell me about your journey? How did you get here? I'm interested as well. I feel like because you may not see it in the real world, like you may not go to a Black dentist, so you may not know that you can do it too. And I feel like social media, even the Shade Room is posting like dentists now. Like, so I feel like it's a good way for people to see that Black people are moving up in the world of dentistry.
Right. Did you have anything you wanted to add, Raina, to that?
I would definitely say there's like kind of Instagram famous dentists now. And a lot of them just, they post their work, they post celebrities that come to their office. They post a bunch of stuff that makes it easier. One, like dental students, we can look up to them and say like, oh, you know, like that's so cool. I want to learn from them. Like Rachel even took advantage of that and was like able to shadow like one of the dentists who's like super Instagram famous just by reaching out for social media. And then, like she said, too, with the pre-dental students reaching out to us. So it just like makes everyone super connected. And I think it also kind of, you know, makes dentistry more important to other people. Because when you see all these ads for Smile Direct or whatever, even if you don't go to Smile Direct, you're now more conscious about what your smile looks like because you're seeing all these ads all the time, right? That helps us out because now the people who won't go to Smile Direct will just go to their regular dentist or their orthodontist and say like, oh, I want to do Invisalign. I want to do this because I noticed this is bugging me. I've been seeing all these like super perfect smiles on Instagram and I want my teeth to look like that. So I think that definitely helps us out because people are just more conscious about the way their smile looks and, you know, just their overall appearance.
Right. Dr. Bell, can you hear me? Who's the perfect person to be a part of SNDA?
who is the perfect person? Anyone that is interested in dentistry. And we said SNDA a lot tonight, and we kind of left off USNDA. So I'm gonna wrap that up real quick. So USNDA is our undergraduate student portion. And that's what HBCU Connect is going to connect those students to. And so that's for anyone that is a pre-dent from, you can be an undergrad, you can be in grad school, you can be lost in the middle of school, you could literally anywhere from college age on up to your first year dental school, wherever you are. It's called undergraduate, but that's just to make the name as quick and short as possible, but that's for any pre-dental student. And so we are here to help anyone, literally. If you are interested in dentistry, that's your passion. Even if you just want to know more, come to sessions. We plan on having those on Instagram. We plan on doing some more things on our YouTube. So if you want to learn about brushing and flossing, come visit the Instagram. Come visit our social media. But we're here to help and to not only educate people that are in dental school now and that want to get there, but just to educate our community. Because oral health literacy is a big thing. You know, I have patients that come to see me and they're like, flossing, or like, oh, I had a crown, I don't know. Oh wait, like, oh, this is like, so oral health literacy is such a big thing too. And so literally we're here. We're Black, we're minorities, we're professionals, and we want to help anyone that literally needs help. So that's learning more about how to brush your teeth like you asked tonight, or if that's literally about how do I write my personal statement. We're here for that, to help not only students, but to help our community and to help us all grow as a whole.
For sure.
All right. I think that's a great place to stop. This was great. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to talk to me and talk to us. I learned a lot. I think we need to do more things like this, because a Black woman or Black girl that's growing up, she can look and say, hey, I can be like student Dr. Jones. You know, I read the shade room like student Dr. Porter. You know.
It's like you could be
music
and you could be a dentist too.
Right, exactly. You can be cool and be a dentist. All right. So I really thank you all. I really appreciate you taking the time, and we have to do it again sometime.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you. You guys have a good one.
You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.